I always go into sequels with an open mind, expecting them to live up to their predecessors, and if you ask me, they usually do. So you know I'm not biased when I say River City Girls 2 is a disgrace to its prequel. Okay, maybe disgrace is a little harsh, but disappointment wouldn't fit in the thumbnail. I'm gonna tell you what the main problem is straight up. RCG 2 focuses so much on the story and gameplay when that just wasn't the main appeal of the first game. Sure, I didn't mind beating up the residents of River City, but what I really loved were the hilarious interactions between Kyoko and Misako. They're silly, out of pocket, and they complement each other really well. Kyoko's fun and supportive, while Misako's forceful and mean. Most of their conversations involve Kyoko being nice to whoever they're talking to, while Misako tells them to shut up and tell them where their boyfriends are. It's a formula that never gets old, and it brings us to the first major problem of RCG 2, the character selection. RCG 2 lets you choose from 6 different characters as opposed to the first game's 2. You can also choose who your partner in conversations is, which presents an obvious problem. There's tons of character combinations and every line needs voice acting. WayForward's solution was to use the same lines regardless of who's speaking. This can get really weird at times. For example, when talking to Skullmageddon, the characters ask if he did anything to Marian, and he pretends not to know who that is. I happened to be playing as Marian at the time, and, well, this was my initial reaction.
We're helping our friend Marian find out who put her under a spell.
This is Marian, by the way.
Oh, geez, never heard that name before. Is it a name?
You're hiding something, aren't you?
Yes.
Fine.
Why didn't you get
Fine,
nervous
I'll
when she
talk.
showed up?
But only I tussled with the Lee brothers a few times.
Let me
Okay.
guess. You kidnapped
You're
their
Marian!
detective.
You are
Well,
Marian!
that was generally how
You
it was
should know
done.
who he is.
But she taught me a real lesson. I can still feel her fist in my gut.
She's right there!
Characters besides Kyoko and Misako seem to think they were along for the ride in the first game. Pruvi mentions the gold cat we gave to Hibari, Ricky mentions fighting all the bosses, etc. Every character is either mean like Misako is, or nice like Kyoko is. If you and your partner both fill the same role, one of them will just reverse their entire personality to fill the other role. Between this and everyone saying the same lines, they lose a lot of personality. Overall, the conversations just feel weird. People will smile when saying something negative, their facial expressions aren't very expressive, and nothing lands right. Compare all of those flaws to the first game, where I was constantly dying of laughter, and I'm pretty disappointed. WayForward chose to prioritize more characters over good characters. That actually leads us into our next point: more isn't better. RCG 2 has a bigger map, which expands on locations from the first game, and even adds in some new ones. There's more shops, more characters, more features, more everything. I admit, some of these gameplay features are actually quite welcome, but they don't add that much enjoyment in the end, since the fun of River City Girls doesn't really come from the gameplay. It also feels wrong that half the game is spent exploring the same areas that were in RCG 1. Same music, same enemies, same moves, just a few extras sprinkled on top. There also isn't even a secret ending. And of course, it's $10 more expensive than the first game. With so many reused assets and much worse quality control, that price increase isn't validated. Speaking of quality control, we've got to talk about RCG 2's glitches and flaws. The first game has an opening cutscene with stellar animation and fun intros for each boss that are accompanied by a unique little theme. But when you look at RCG 2, it's just moving pictures with flashes of black to represent attacks. The boss intros are way shorter, they're less interesting, and the music is just a small excerpt from their fight song. In terms of glitches, I encountered 3 major ones. When fighting bosses, there's a chance the camera's position gets frozen at the start. This is only a mild annoyance against most bosses, but against Suiko, who has a huge arena, it makes her fight effectively impossible. I intentionally got myself defeated whenever it happened. Side note, the Suiko fight sucks. It happens to be right up my alley, so I enjoyed it personally, but objectively speaking, it sucks. You can't combo her, she takes minuscule damage, and there's a buttload of things to dodge. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, one of the other glitches was during Marian's battle. You're supposed to jump between these blocks to avoid her attacks, but sometimes the blocks are close together and sometimes they're slightly farther apart. I know it doesn't sound like a big difference, but you can easily jump between the close blocks while the far ones are super challenging. There's no indication of when they'll be far apart, and getting unlucky can seriously screw you over. I'm not sure if it's even a glitch or just bad game design. The final glitch I encountered is the big one. I received a keycard to Primo's boss room. Before going in, I briefly left and re-entered the room I was currently in for the sake of a silly joke, but when I re-entered, Primo's door was locked again, and there was absolutely no way for me to unlock it. After 18 hours of gameplay, I had soft locked. I'm far from the first person to encounter this, yet after several patches and updates, it still hasn't been fixed. It's disappointing something like that ever slipped through playtesting in the first place. But I think I know why they let it happen. The answer, of course, is money. On November 30th, the day before the game's intended release, WayForward said they were still working on it and that they were gonna have to push it back. It ended up releasing on December 14th. They were clearly scrambling to get it done before Christmas. On top of all that, don't forget that it's $10 more expensive than the first game. The Japanese version did release on December 1st as intended, but without online multiplayer, which was promised to be added in a future update, so they basically acknowledged they were releasing an unfinished game. And it's not just the glitches that make RCG2 less fun, it tries to be something it's not. River City Girls 1 was very, very simple. Kyoko and Misako's boyfriends got kidnapped, and they're going to beat up the whole city to find them if they have to. That is their only reason for doing anything, besides the occasional Godai quest. Bosses usually don't have much reason for fighting you, other than you kind of annoyed them. The story only exists as a catalyst for Kyoko and Misako's funny interactions. The second game, however, really overdoes it. There's Yakuza, evil schemes, multi-step plans, in-depth quests, and so on. There's a reason behind everything you and the villains do, but I really just don't care. River City Girls should be something I can turn my brain off to. I just want to watch Kyoko and Misako yell at people, then beat them up. Even the Godai quests are simple. He wants you to beat someone up or something simply because he doesn't like them. On the other hand, RCG2 quests feel weird. You have to do this, then this, because this, for this person, for this reward. But in the end, all you really do is beat people up, same as the first game. So why bother throwing all the fluff on top of it? Just have the player beat people up. River City Girls is a beat 'em up, so embrace it. Also, can someone explain why Kyoko and Misako are suddenly good people? In RCG1, they beat people up without question, were short-tempered, and didn't do anyone any favors, except Godai. How could you say no to that face? But in RCG2, they're on a noble quest to save the city, accepting help from strangers and doing a plethora of favors for people along the way. That just isn't them. They briefly mention that they're saving the city because the Yakuza took over their favorite hangout spots, but they were perfectly content playing video games without so much as leaving their couch for the last 2 months. So how much do they really care? It's just a lame excuse for WayForward to make a sequel. Okay, it's rapid fire time. Here's a bunch of stuff I just don't like about River City Girls 2. They didn't bother making a new image for Ken's rematch. Lazy! All of the dialogue appears on screen at once, making it easy to accidentally look ahead and know what people are about to say, taking away what little humor there is. It randomly throws bosses at you. The only ones I felt prepared for were Suiko, Blair, and Primo, and I didn't even get to fight him. The rest came out of nowhere, especially Ken's. River City Girls 2, the song, and River City Girls Anthem both make a big deal of the girls being back, even though it's only been 3 years since their last adventure. That's weird. Blair's backstory tries to be emotional and moving, but I could not care less. No one asked for your sob story. The difficulty is so inconsistent. RCG1 provided a very nice challenge, with every fight taking somewhere between 1 and 2 hours, and they got progressively harder throughout the game. RCG2 just does whatever the hell it wants. Blair? We'll make her super easy, she won't even take half an hour. Suiko? She should be unreasonably difficult and take 5 hours. Ken? He can be about the same difficulty as RCG1's first boss, but his rematch at the end of the game will be exactly the same, except your combos get randomly interrupted by these 2 kids. I am so glad I never had to do such a stupid boss fight. The soundtrack is actually pretty fire, especially the 4 songs with lyrics, but the boss themes, which were the highlights of RCG1's OST, just don't hit right in RCG2. They're really good when you listen to them on their own, but they don't feel right in-game. Some are silly and fun, while others are dead serious. It's weird. RCG1's boss themes all hit a perfect mix of both of those vibes. There's someone named Chipsel who helped with the first game's boss themes, but not the sequels, so maybe her absence has something to do with it? So, with all the flaws I've pointed out, it's only fair I offer a solution to them, right? Making a sequel to a game like River City Girls is tough. The main appeal is Kyoko and Misako's interactions, so continuing the story and adding more gameplay features doesn't work. So how, then, do you make a sequel to such an iconic, unique game? Well, I've thought about it, and I think I know the answer. You don't. River City Girls 1 was perfectly fine as it was. It had a magic that no other game should or could try to capture. Kyoko and Misako's opposing personalities led to so many hilarious conversations, and the game clearly had a lot of love put into it. It knew what it was, and it stuck to that. RCG2 tries to be something different, and it just doesn't work. Not to mention it was rushed to be finished before Christmas, leading to some glitches that never should have gotten past playtesting. The dialogue and code are both patched together into something I find extremely disappointing. Wow, you've made it to the end of the video. Thank you! This is my first time doing any sort of analysis video, so hopefully I persuaded some RCG1 fans not to buy the sequel. If you still really want to play it, don't spend the $40. Instead, check out my playthrough of it on my Let's Play channel. Or don't, because it really just isn't a good game. But you can look forward to a River City Girls 0 playthrough in the future, which I hope won't be a letdown like RCG2 was. For now, make sure to like and subscribe, and remember kids, eat your green vegetables!